about his journey. He also already said that he would be open to all sorts of questions that you might have. So, just go ahead, ask everything that you would want to ask. Take advantage of our guests while we still have him here. And now, first of all, please join me in welcoming Stefan to our lecture.
Test. Perfect. Thank you so much for introducing myself. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session. As just introduced, my name is Stefan. I'm founder of Peter Park, co-founder. We were 4 people founding the company 6 years ago, and I just joined today's session based on Julia's invitation to give you today some insights on my journey. I've done this now for 6 years. And you guys are sitting here in the entrepreneurship lecture, so maybe there are some people who might think about doing the same in the future. And I just want to give you a very transparent picture on how my journey has been. And more importantly, afterwards, I'm here for answering all your questions as well. I think that's the most important part. So please do not hesitate to reach out after my session. All right. So maybe to kick this off, I have a question for you guys sitting here who actually seriously considers founding a company himself at some point in the future. Maybe can you raise your hand? Okay, that's quite some people. How many people are from Germany here? How many people are from outside of Germany? So Germany is, okay, half maybe. Okay, very nice. So that's already a good starting point. Maybe brief words about what is my company doing. Our company is called Peter Park. We are a company which is digitizing parking lots. So a very basic product. We put kind of a AI technology above. So it's a so-called tech-enabled service. We are now operating since roughly 4 to 5 years at scale. We're operating in Italy, in Austria, in Switzerland, and in Germany, so classic DACH region and Italy. We register right now per year around about 50 million parking transactions, so there's quite some stuff going on. We are growing the last 6 years on average by 100%, and we are, as of today, actually 185 employees, so we are growing around about with 10 to 15 people per month right now. And what we are essentially doing, you can see here. So you can imagine every kind of parking lot which is off street, so not along the street. Can be a parking garage, it can be an underground garage or a normal surface parking lot. As you know, there has been the last 60 years either a physical barrier going up and down, quite basic, or there's personal kind of patrolling once, twice maybe, per day, sometimes once per week. So also this is not really state of the art. And what we have done is we used license plate recognition technology. So the journey starts on the bottom right. A car is entering a parking lot. We kind of scan it. So we know actually when did the car arrive. Then you can go, for example, shopping, you're coming back, and then you can pay via kiosk, mobile phone. There's a lot of different channels by today. And afterwards, we just leave the parking lot. We are scanning again. So we have the full parking transaction. We match it with a payment. And in case somebody does not pay, we have APIs to the public authorities, and we can actually send you a fine by post. So it's fully digitized. We don't have the CapEx investment that a physical barrier would have. And we are basically there 24/7, and there's full transparency in all parking transactions. What is the advantage for our customers? Low CapEx, basically no CapEx. We actually finance the stuff, so it's a financing business model. High turnover, so everybody has to pay because people figure pretty fast that the system is always there. And for the customer also, it's a digitized cloud-based system, so we're adding features every week, and all our customers actually get access to that. So this may be very briefly what we are doing, but this is, I would say, of secondary importance today. Now I want to come back about to the topic of how did our journey start, or more importantly, what's the ingredients for a leap into uncertainty? And I think this is a very important point because in Germany, I think German society is not very open or not very used to founding companies. So if I give you maybe some insights about myself, when I was young, I was always dreaming of working at Mercedes, having with 30 a company car, and having security. And I'm from Swabian, so that was my dream, and I would never have thought about actually building a company. So that was more a coincidence, and I think that's super nice that there's lectures like this one to actually open this up, give you some transparency on what can it be and what does it need to actually start doing that and go into uncertainty, because that's in the end what it is, right? Founding a company, first of all, is uncertainty, and I think it's super important to shed some light on that. So after studying, I was studying industrial engineering in Augsburg. I went to France, to Sweden, and then I did my master's in Copenhagen, in Denmark. I did an MBA afterwards, and then I started the classic path. I worked in a corporate. So I tried to make with AI my self-image, ironically, that I had of myself when I started working. So I was working for a spin-off of Siemens, medtech sector, hearing aids actually. We were building nice customer journeys, online customer journeys in Japan, in China, in the US. So I was traveling every fourth week. I had a great boss. It was a great time. I loved my job actually. And I thought I'm super cool because I'm so young and already traveling, and I have this cool corporate job, which was well paid. But in the end, I can tell you the path I went afterwards was much harder, but also much nicer. So what happened? Why did I go into startups? Actually, my company closed down the office in Munich. They wanted me to move to Singapore. Plus, one of my best friends actually reached out during a Sunday's coffee with this idea of digitizing parking lots, and that's kind of how it started. And I was 25 at the time, and we said, okay, if not now, when then? So I quit my job, and we started building Peter Park. And I can tell you it's been a fun journey, but also a tough journey. And this is why I brought you today some pictures about what we've done. So at the beginning, there was just this paper, right, in our idea, and we built a very basic MVP. So we had scanners, we had a kiosk that we bought, and we somehow programmed it that it's actually showing prices. It didn't really work, but we just really started building and knocking doors. So this is my first office. It wasn't very fancy. It was in Berg 1. Some of you guys might actually know it. It's founded or funded by the Bavarian state next to Werksviertel, or in the Werksviertel. There you get actually super cheap office space for building a company. So if somebody of you guys wants to build something, has a small team already in a team, reach out to Berg 1. It's, I think, the greatest place in Munich to start off a company. And interestingly, we had only one window there, and in front of that window there was the ventilation of a gas turbine, which is in the basement. So it was either there was no air to breathe, or it was super loud, depending on you kept the window open or closed. So that was a very humbling experience, and we had a lot of motivation to actually get out of there. And moving on, maybe some pictures of our journey. You can see here on the very left our first kiosk that actually didn't work at all, I can tell you. We put it on the side of a German municipality in Black Forest. On the middle, that's Patrick, one of my co-founders, and me installing a parking site in Switzerland. So we were on a ladder on 3 meters height, and we tried to install this thing, which also worked at some point. And on the right side, you can see how we actually delivered our kiosk at the beginning, because we didn't have delivery cars. So we just took our own cars. We put the kiosk in there. We drove there, and yeah, we did everything by ourselves. Luckily, no German authorities with Arbeitsschutz or anything were like looking what we were doing there, because nothing was compliant. But actually, I think that's also part of the journey, right? Just doing stuff, getting things started, and really trying hands-on to do what you think is the right thing, because mostly it is at the beginning not the right thing what you're doing. And I was sitting down yesterday evening to actually find some pictures. So I went through the history of Peter Park again, and it was funny because I can tell you 60% of all the pictures on my iPhone are parking lots. So you get at some point really crazy about parking lots. So every time I'm going on a Lidl or whatever, I'm just first of all screening the parking lot and I look in our CRM system, is it actually already there? So that's a very nice part. Like work and private life is getting more and more kind of combined, and it's getting a blurred picture. And this is what I personally think is super nice, because it's not a job anymore you're doing, you know, from 8 to 5. It's actually kind of your life. And it's a positive thing because it's fun. So every day you're actually looking into how can I get the company forward, and how do we actually get these customers on board. So we started, as said before, and the first, let's say, 8 months, we worked together with a German operator. So it was a small parking company based in Erlangen, and it went pretty smoothly. But then actually Corona hit. So, I mean, all of you guys know what happened. Out of a sudden, German authorities, cities, they were not in the office anymore. And you might not even imagine, but they didn't have Microsoft Teams or even laptops. So they were home, and their infrastructure was in the office, so we couldn't reach any customer. So that was quite a bad thing. Basically, that was the first time when we got really into problems. We had actually one employee at the time. So he went into Kurzarbeit. We basically didn't pay any salaries to ourselves for 3 months at the time. And that was the first time when we had really serious problems. And I was also getting, you know, these thoughts. Why did I do that? Why did I quit my super nice job? And now I'm sitting here and I'm basically fucked. But also there again, our investor actually left us at the time then as well, because he was a little bit older guy and he turned crazy during Corona, literally. And we were basically saying to ourselves, okay, we need now 2 months, or we have 2 months left, lifetime, so to say, lifeline. And if we don't find a new investor until end of these 2 months, it's done. We closed down the company. Then it was a nice adventure. We tried it. We were looking for an investor, and actually one of my former professors of my MBA school, he was calling me up, and he actually wanted to introduce students to work as a working student for us. So I told him, we don't have money, I'm sorry, but maybe you have an investor who wants to invest. And it turned out that he got someone, and we got in a German family office based out of Würzburg. You might imagine a German family office is not the classic VC. So also that was quite a fun journey. And it took us from the first call until going to the notary and signing an investment contract like 6 weeks. So this was really high speed. Those guys were really into risk. It was crazy, but yeah, so we found actually after 8 months the first investor. And that brings me actually to the next point. So what do you need actually to build a successful company? I think it's all about persistency, curiosity, but also a pinch of luck. So I mean, finding this investor for us, it was luck. And if we wouldn't have found these guys, our journey would have stopped after 8 months. And I think also that would have been totally okay. And I think that's also part of why I'm here and what I want to tell you. The majority of startups, they don't make it. But what you're learning in that time is 10x what you can learn in a corporate, because you have to do everything by yourself, from hiring, building a product, visiting people, knocking doors, talking to people. It's crazy, the journey of growth you have. And I think that's also how everybody who thinks about building a startup should look at it, because it's not about, you know, becoming rich or anything. If you want to build a startup because you think you're going to be rich, that most probably will not be enough motivation to get you through that long period that you will have until really being successful. So it's much more. It's all the experience and the great things you will learn on the way. So here you can see us actually writing Christmas cards. It was during Corona in our office, and also here that's a fun picture. That's actually our investors. So. In the third guy from the right, that's mighty Mr. Barlian, one of the most impressive people I've ever met in my life. He's today, I think, 84 years old, and he was a founder himself actually like 80 years ago. So he went actually after World War II from Poland, where he ended up during World War II. He walked his way to Würzburg, and there he founded his own startup back in the days in the garage. It was a German classic Mittelständler. He built it up to a revenue of more than 500 million euros annually. And he sold the company like 10 years ago, and he brought the money now into kind of a foundation, a family foundation. Now they are investing into companies. And this guy actually was it who got to know us at the very beginning. And he then said, okay, there's a team, there's a product idea at least, and there's a market, so let's invest. And that was, I can tell you, pretty risky. And still, I'm super grateful for this guy because he had the kind of instinct that it might be a good idea and that we might be the right team. And those guys invested into us, and they were investing in the peak times around about 20 million into Peter Park. So 20 million euros invested by these guys into Peter Park. And without him, basically, who was an entrepreneur himself, this all wouldn't have been possible for us, because a professional VC, after the first investor leaving us, would have never invested into us because it just didn't add up. It was too risky. So this is what I mean with a pinch of salt and a pinch of luck that you need on the way. And here you can see then after some time, this is maybe 1.5 years after founding the company, we finally got out of that ugly office and we got our first office with proper windows, as you can see here. And we moved there, and then things just evolved, and basically we got our own cars. We could deliver things there. We didn't have to take the train or our private cars anymore. And we moved into another office again. So the first 3 years, we moved actually offices twice. And today we are in the office nearby Ostbahnhof on 2,500 square meters, and it's a proper office. But yeah, the journey going there was quite different. And now, maybe what is the most important thing? I mean, everybody is probably telling you that, but I would really emphasize that this is the pure truth. So if you found a company, have a very close look into who you're founding that company with. Because most startups, they don't end up with the idea that they started with. And I think what my learning was, the co-founders and also your first employees, it's super critical that this is the right people with the right talent and the right skill set, but even more importantly, that it's the right personalities, because you will face so many challenges. There will come up, private topics. Maybe one person gets a child during that journey, so then he cannot work 24/7 anymore. What are you doing? How do you handle that? You will have bad times for sure. How do you handle that? And I personally I was very lucky because I just knew actually one of my co-founders. We were 4 at the time, but it revealed to be very, very positive. We just lost more or less one guy on the path, and the other guys, it's not just my co-founders today. It's probably, or it's not probably, it is some of my best friends, and we are sharing everything with each other. And I mean, I'm spending more time with them than I will ever spend with my family, right? So this is super critical that you have the right people. And connected with people, I would say it's also really a lot of fun what you're doing. And this is also something I want to talk about. I mean, it's a lot of hassle. You don't earn a lot of money at the beginning. You will have a lot of defeats and really hard days. But on the other side, the time that you spend with the people, the challenges that you go through with these people, it's super rewarding. And I always say you only know the value if you paid the price. And these people that you build a company with, this is going to be lifelong friends and really partners of yours. And here may be some examples. I mean, we are doing once a year an offsite, so we take the whole company and we go somewhere. So on the left side, we were actually in Austria. We just rented some huts in the mountains. On the right side, last year we were in Italy, so we rented a small village. Basically, we went there with 140 people and just spent there 3 days, and we worked a little bit, but we also partied a lot and just had a good time bonding, because I think also that is super important. And also we have really a lot of wild Oktoberfest events and all of that. And also that, I think, is part of the story, because building a startup is always about building kind of something with your, in the end, friends. And it's a super rewarding journey because you will build bonds that you've never built before. And also, in the end, I think that's, at least for myself, the most motivating point, because I started the presentation, the title slide, with why I found a company, and I would certainly answer this is not because of earning money, as I said before, but it's really about the experience and the learning you get. And no matter how successful your startup will be, I can tell you the probability that you will say, I wouldn't do it again is quite low, because the journey is just extremely rewarding and you can learn a lot of stuff. And having said that, I want to close my quick introduction presentation, and let's make sure we use now the time left for all the questions. Please shoot it out, all the personal questions. I'm open for anything. I'm super happy to answer that. Thanks for your attention. So, are there any questions about what I've told you about, or anything beyond that? How did you procure your first investor, your first fund? The question was how we procured our first investor. It was kind of a coincidence. So one of my co-founders, Max, he was working in the LMU accelerator a little bit, or like playing around with some ideas. And they were building an MVP of a parking app that is kind of swapping parking lots. So if you're living, I don't know, downtown in the morning and you're leaving with your car, you leave a free parking spot, right? And the idea was to kind of have an app where you type in the evening before when you leave, and then you can swap and kind of monetize this. Yeah, of course, it didn't work out, but this is how he got into the industry. And then he met actually that guy, the CEO of a mid-sized German parking company, and he got to know him. And actually, we then were on a project basis within that company to kind of digitize that company, because there was this old guy with a pretty solid lifestyle business. So he was already driving his Porsche and everything was well, but he didn't even have a proper email program. So we did a digitization program. We actually got some money from it. It was good for us. We were young and we didn't have money. So we did a contract with him, and that's how we learned a lot about that industry. And we've seen how inefficient he was doing operations. And we also then, of course, learned a lot about other competitors, and all of them are super inefficient. And then we've seen that in UK and in Scandinavia, barrier-free parking was already a huge thing. In Germany, somehow it didn't arrive. So we actually talked with that guy, and we were like, hey, we would like to build a company out of that. Would you like to invest? And then he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And that was our first investor, which went very badly in the end, but it was our starting points anyways. And yeah, so that's how we got our very first investor. Both, essentially. So for us, our sales department is targeting the guys who own the parking lot. So we're reaching out to shopping centers, funds, municipalities, basically everybody who owns parking property and wants to monetize it. And kind of our positioning, if you want, there has been traditionally either system houses, so the manufacturers of barriers, or there has been like full service operators who just, pay you $10,000 per year, and then they can do with your parking lot whatever they want. And we kind of positioned ourselves in the middle. So we put everything in a automated business model. We do everything for the customer, but he still has his hands on, so he can still define the tariffs, the opening hours, and all of that. So we kind of didn't only come up with a product innovation, but also with kind of a business model innovation that made it much, much easier to actually monetize your parking lot and still have full control over it. But so it's one more thing, but still, I mean, our B2C users, the parkers, are still our customers, right? So if a car is going on one of our parking lots, the contractual relationship is between us and the car holder. So that is also our customer. So we have a two-brand strategy. So there's another brand, it's called Mobility Hub. That's our brand that is on the parking lot. So you will never see a Peter Park sign on our parking lots. Peter Park is a pure B2B brand for our basically lot owners. And there's a B2C brand, which is for the car holders. And we keep it super differently. I mean, we are today processing around about 60 to 70 million euros of parking transactions. So this is all coming from B2C users, of course. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Question was what are we doing if the license plate is covered? Depends. So, I mean, there's some people who actually put kind of reflection foils on top of it. Like it's the same you can put if you don't want to be caught by the police if you're speeding too much. In the end, essentially in the first place, we can't do anything against it. So we don't detect him. but we are building kind of algorithms to also like see that. I mean, it's not just a license plate recognition. You can imagine it like a multi-layered detection. So we see, okay, there's coming a car. We see what kind of car, is it a Tesla or Mercedes C-Class? Then we see the direction, we see the license plate, we see the form factor, like everything, and we combine these data into our data models to kind of come up with the right thing. And of course, we would then, in that such a case, detect there was a car, but there was no license plate. And we're doing kind of an, like not all the license plates, but we check it, some of them with a physical, like with a human eye. And if we detect it and we see then a pattern that this person is coming once a week, by that time we're sending someone, because if you actually caught doing that, it's in German legal framework, Urkundenfälschung, and there's actually a person on that. Yeah. Yeah, snow can be a problem. I mean, if it's really, snowing, that snow is coming horizontally and it's really going bad, and the license plate has such a snow layer on top of it, we don't see anything. That's just like that. But if you approach this challenge in a probabilistic methodology, you will see it's not even promille in our cases. And we have a lot of skiing resorts and stuff, and we also scan from the front and from the back. And if you check in during winter, the back side of a car is very seldomly full of snow, because it's mostly like if you're driving the front license plate, but the back is mostly free, and then it's fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the question was if it's the transaction is manual or automatically processed. It's both. So it depends. I'm always saying we cannot force the customer into a certain customer journey. So that was also an interesting learning. At the beginning, I was standing in front of customers and I was telling them, our kiosk is only taking card, no cash anymore. Because, like if you just write it down, cash doesn't make sense in any way you put it. But then we figured in Germany, yeah, well, if you want to run parking operations without actually a riot on your parking lot, you need to offer cash. And coming back to your question, I mean, fully automated processes, 80-year-old guy cannot handle that. So we offer both, and we try to offer all the journeys that our customers understand. So you can pay on our parking lots with a coin, you can pay with a credit card, you can pay with your smartphone manually, or you can actually sign up, create an account, and it's fully automated. So we have all the journeys, and then we understand ourselves as kind of a transformator or transformation enabler. So we then try to make the things that we think are the right thing a little bit more comfortable. So maybe the parking kiosk, which is not offering cash handling, is positioned at the very nice place where most people are coming across, and the others have to go some more meters. And then you can play and kind of make it for people more interesting, because what we figured is, if somebody used once the fully automated workflow, he will also always use it, because then they've seen it's nice. But it's sometimes very hard to actually get them there. And also there, it depends a lot on the geographies. So for example, in Switzerland, people are super digital, and they are seeking these digital payment methods. In Germany, it's super hard. If you go to my hometown, Swabian town, they only like cash. Everything else is worth nothing. So you need to go with the customers and then kind of develop it from there, right?
You said that there was already this kind of solution in Scandinavia and in Great Britain. So why did you decide to make a new solution from scratch and not, for example, become the representatives in Germany?
So the question is, why didn't we become a reseller basically of the existing products that were already out in Scandinavia? I think if we would have had the goal of building a nicely working lifestyle business, this would have been the way to go for, right? Just get the technology, adapt it a little bit to our market, and go with it. There was some companies doing that actually, but they were not able to really scale it, because in the end, our edge compared to competition is that we have hands on our software and we can do whatever we want. We don't have any, somebody saying, no, I don't develop that for you. And on the short term, that was for sure the harder path. But today, this is our absolute USP, because we are much faster than they. We focus on our markets, and we are a tech-enabled kind of service, and their speed and also flexibility is key. If we wouldn't have that, we couldn't operate in the way we want. And also, of course, the majority of the profit margin is coming from scalability effects. And if we would have to pay, for example, for every parking lot, I don't know if it would be transactional 10% of our revenues, we could never get this, down. Because maybe we could get it down to 9%, but we would always be dependent on somebody external. And we said we want to build something from scratch where we can define basically everything, which was the harder path at the beginning, but today it really pays off. Yeah, very good question. How did we split the roles across the co-founder team? So we are very different people, I would say, also from a skill set and also personality. We always say we are heterogeneous. So we have one guy, Max. He's the CEO, and he has a legal background. So he studied law in London. Which is very important for us because every parking transaction is handling a license plate, and license plate is a personal information. So data protection is a huge topic for us. Specifically at the beginning, it was huge. So that's great. So he's doing all the contracts, and today mostly investor relationships. Then I take over everything commercial, so all the sales, the marketing, and also existing customers. That's all on my side, making sure we grow and we keep our customers and we have no churn, basically. Then we have one guy who was the COO, Patrick. He's responsible for all the operational heavy lifting, so to say. So he's doing all the setup of new sites, all the project management, and then the cross functions like HR, finance, and business automation. Today we have a huge team which is just doing automations. So this is with Patrick. And then we have a CTO. He's responsible for tech and product and kind of making sure our innovation is always up and running. Does it make sense?
That's how you're splitting right now.
It's always been like that, actually. But at the beginning, I must say it was more blurred. So sometimes Max was doing a sales call, or I was doing, I don't know, interviews or whatever. So at the beginning, everybody's a little bit doing everything, but we always had that rough structure. But maybe also talking about the decision-making process, because I think that's the most important thing, like how we make decisions. So it's not like Max is the CEO and he's then deciding. We always went for a kind of democratic decision process, which was mostly very inefficient. So we were sitting a lot of nights, I can tell you, discussing topics. But in the end, we always did it like on a consensus basis. So every decision, we only made a decision if everybody was saying, yeah, that's the right thing to do. And I think that made us sometimes a little bit slow, or it took a lot of discussions. But this helped us to be always aligned and, prevented us from any kind of maybe, small things coming up between us, because we were really always super honest with each other and making all the decisions on a consensus base. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think at the beginning it was the business model innovation part of it. So, let's maybe briefly dive into this. Before, the standard was either there was coming a parking operator like Apcoa, whatever. They go to an airport and tell him, okay, I pay you 1 million per year, and you give me the parking lot, and I can then do whatever I want. So this was the one model. And the other model, which was even more spread, was that a hospital buys a physical barrier from a system house, so to say, from a technical supplier, and then they were doing all the operations by themselves. And the full operator model was very unpopular because you kind of give away everything, and people don't want that because it's their customers that are handled maybe not in the way they want to. And the other model, it's such a pain in the ass because physical barriers, they get always broken. They're super expensive. So a classic barrier system for a parking lot, 1 entry lane, 1 exit lane, and 2 kiosks, it's like 150K. Just, CapEx, and then it gets all the time broken. So the average German barrier gets broken 3 times a year because somebody is driving through. So it's nuts. So people, they cannot handle the clutch apparently, and they always destroy this physical barrier. And you need to imagine if a physical barrier is broken, all the cars can enter and exit without paying. And the roundabout, like the average time from like calling the technical service to them arriving, actually fixing it, is 7 days. So if like 2 times a year for 7 days, so 14 days a year, you lose all the revenues. It's crazy. And with our system, all of this was gone because we go to the customers, we tell them, hey, look, here's the technology. We put it there for free. Afterwards, we want to have a certain share of your revenues. Like let's take a basic number, 10%. And then we do make sure that this works, because also kind of the working mode of ours is not like with the physical barriers. We are earning money if the stuff is going down and it's broken. We earn money if it's having an uptime of 100%, because we only take money from a revenue share. Meaning we were sitting with our customers in one boat and we were rowing in the same direction, and we were not working against each other anymore. And just this small kind of change of, you know, how we approach the problem, people loved it, because they were saying, okay, finally somebody who is taking ownership and making sure our operations are running smoothly. And that was kind of the largest differentiator. And today, of course, we've overtaken our competitor from a tech perspective as well, but that took some time. And now we can also offer features that competition doesn't offer. Yeah. Yes, we would love to. Basically, the problem is German data protection. So it's not allowed for a private company to scan license plates in the public area. So the only authority who's allowed to do that is the police. And also they are not allowed to do it on a mass scale anymore. So there was like pilots like 10 years ago where the police was putting license plate scanners on, you know, bridges of highways and stuff to do like criminal investigations. But also that was in the end pushed away by the legal courts. So from a technical perspective, we could do it right away. But the problem is, the legal framework. But also there is some movement, like in Italy, you might know it, there's some small, you know, municipalities where you have a so-called city maut, or like city tolls, which are based on license plate recognition. So we're basically right now sitting there waiting until the gate is opening, and then we run into it, because it's a huge market. Like also in Stockholm, if you look at it, there you have a city toll which is dynamically priced. So in Stockholm, depending on the traffic, you're paying less or more to actually pass the inner city ring. And all of this, I mean, we could do it right away with our technology, because it's, basically there's somewhere an entry, right, and somewhere an exit, and you can scan it, and then you put a pricing above. But as of today, we cannot do it based to, due to legal reasons. And the second question was? Who's our biggest competitor? There's quite some competitors. So there's another company in Munich. They actually started more or less the same day, and they are a big competitor of ours. They're called Wemolo, and they're doing a decent job as well. They focus, however, more on supermarkets, so like on all the Lidls and stuff. So they're doing just 90 minutes if you're allowed to park, and if you're longer, you get a fine. And we are focusing more on paid parking, so you pay €1 per hour because we think it's more interesting. But they are doing a good job. They have roughly the same size like we do. And then, of course, the big operators are still competition, Apcoa, Conti Park, Q Park. So it's some big European players, actually. And the market is already quite consolidated. It's getting more and more consolidated right now. And then the physical barriers, they are also competition, but they are having the hardest time. Yeah. Who are not paying? Yes, we have a very clear picture on that. So roughly, you need to see it like after going live, it's going up a little bit because people, they don't see it or they don't want to see it. And then it's kind of going down. And after 4 weeks, roughly, you have a very solid line. And this is round about at 0.5%. How we? If you sue them, yes. Yes, we do. So, I mean, you need to make sure that everybody's paying. If you don't sue them, nobody will pay. Plus, it's also a clear revenue stream of ours because, I mean, Let's be transparent about that as well. The average fine in Germany for like a parking violation is 45 euros. So, I mean, there's a lot of costs associated with that. Like the state gets for every API call 5 euros, and like there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's still a good margin business for us. And it's a little bit weird because, right, we are building a product that should make sure that everybody is paying. But if somebody is not paying, we earn decent money with it. It's kind of a weird setup we have in place. It's the same with Google. They earn the money with these annoying like commercials on the side, but people actually use the search engine or used to use it before ChatGPT. And it's the same with us. So we have like several like income streams. It's the revenue share from the tariffs. It's the fines. We also get SaaS fees sometimes. Like we take, for if you have a dynamic pricing in your parking lot, like specific features, we take like, I don't know, 1,000 euros SaaS per month. So it's quite a complex pricing, and it depends on the customer as well. But yeah, long story short, we do find them.
Can you talk about your first MVP? How did you convince your first investor? Like, what exactly did you explain to make it attractive? Like, okay, yeah, your idea is worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was the story I told you before, right? So there was this old guy, Mr. Balian, and we actually went to their office to pitch, and we had this classic pitch deck basically. And to be honest and transparent, it was full of shit. Like all the stuff we've written on that, it was not. We didn't have it. So we were actually exaggerating a little bit. Let's put it like that. And this is also part of the game. You need to like always lean a little bit out of the window, but you shouldn't fall, right? You should just lean as far as you can, and you can still then afterwards also deliver it. And there, of course, we've shown him like what is our team, because that was the key essence what we had. We had a good team. We knew that. And then we had some pilots. We had 2 pilot customers, which was very helpful because then you could make a check mark. There's a market basically. And we showed them our product. We made a lot of videos and showed that as well. And we, of course, made like very nice hockey stick forecasts. All of them didn't come true. But in the end, I think that, and specifically like the live presentation, I mean, you need to convince them personally that you are worth of being invested. And that's what we luckily managed back in the days. And then they came with a first investment. So also maybe important to mention the investment board granted us 2 million of initial investment, 2 million euros. And they said, we will never invest more. Then it's getting too much risk. And then in the course of our journey, the last 4 years, we needed more and more money because we kind of changed the business model. At the beginning, we were only like selling the hardware. And then we changed the business model to, we put it there for free. So we had out of a sudden a much higher capital requirement. And then out of a sudden, this company, like our investors were increasing their investment by factor 10. But then there was already a relationship built. There was trust. They've seen that what we promised actually materialized, and that helped a lot to actually then coming up with more and more money. And that's kind of how we worked ourselves up in their kind of perception.
You had any like, okay, they felt like, why you do that? Or it was like, oh yeah.
Okay, question was why did they invest the money, or like why did they believe us the story, right? Yeah, maybe some more background to that. So we were at the beginning, as said before, just supplying the hardware, and then we were asking a SaaS fee. So that was our business model. We tried actually to digitize the existing players. We didn't want to work against them. That was how we started the first 1.5 years. And in the course of that, we also took a market player from the United Kingdom. Comes a little bit back to your question, like a British player. We called them up and we're like, why are you not coming to Germany? There's a huge market here. We have the product. Come to us. We give you the product and you should do it. And they were then in talks with us actually to acquire us pretty early on. And they've shown us like all their plans of how they want to scale and what actually the margins are, because they knew it. They were doing the barrier-free business as an operator in the UK. And these Excels and these forecasts, they were so tempting for our investors that they then said, why should we do it with them? Let's do it by ourselves. And then they were like opening their pocket. That's kind of how it happened. So it was kind of evidence based on an external player who knew the business very well. and then they got a little bit greedy. And then basically they gave us a lot of money and we did it ourselves. So this is how it happens. Yeah. So again here, pinch of luck. Yep. Yeah, a very good question because I didn't talk about this. We figured in the course of last year that we are slowly getting too big for our family office because I mean we are now 170 people. We have huge salary costs, and the company is getting from a risk profile too big for our like family office investor. So we went on the journey last year to search for a new additional investor, so to say. And we closed the round this year in June. So we got now a new investor on board. It's classic American growth equity fund. So they're based out of Boston. The investment managers are sitting in London, and they invested now in June money into us. They got actually a majority share of our company, and we're now totaling like 100 million euro of investment, and we got them on board now. So for the next 5 years, if we don't do any crazy stuff, we should be fine. And we're running already today on a profitable baseline, but actually the target is to grow even more aggressive, and therefore we need some more money. Question is how much ownership we gave. What do you mean in detail? Yeah. Also that was not the classic way. So when we got in the family office, we were in a quite bad position, right? As I've told you before, basically with the close to shut down the company. So at that time, we gave away nearly half of our shares, which was very unreasonable, but it was the only way, and we were desperate at the days, so we wouldn't do that again. But then afterwards, we kind of could manage that we get more money from them without further diluting. So it was more like a credit line. So in the end, it was for us then again a decent deal. And the new investor now, which is not a VC, but it's a private equity firm, they're holding the majority share of the company, so they're like at 80%. And then there's like different incentivization programs for us as founders and our management basically. So that's how private equity works. They kind of give you virtual shares and try to make sure that it's fun for everyone to work really hard and long hours to get the company to where everybody wants it to be. Yeah.
Do you think when it comes to dealing with a private equity firm US, or are there differences when it comes?
If there's differences between the negotiation with the private equity from the US compared to the German family office, yes, it's much more professional. I mean, you can imagine that process of getting the private equity investor on board. It took us like 7 months roundabout, and so there's investment bankers that are hired by us. So there's always a sell side and a buy side. And these guys, they kind of were looking into our company for 2 months and building an Excel file that was representing our company more or less. And this Excel file, I have a very good notebook actually. It took me like 2 minutes to actually open it. That's how big this Excel file is then. And based on that, they make you go then to the market and you reach out to all the private equities that are out there. And then they're starting kind of a process, so to say. Then there's coming some guys that are saying, oh, okay, I'm interested. And you have a lot of calls with them. And then you kind of boil it down to a smaller group of interested investors. Then you meet them or they're passing by. So it's a classic sales process in essence. And at some point, they're then getting a big consultancy. In our case, it was BCG, and they are scanning you for another 2 weeks. And then there's a huge deck, a lot of slides. Everybody is making sure that nobody's making any mistakes. And in the end, it's then a lot of lawyers. So like at the peak times, they were working like 120 people on that process. Because these private equities, you need to know, they have also investors behind them. It's mostly like, kind of governmental funds or pension funds. And they also need to make sure that they are working in a reasonable way with their money. So they always get in the most expensive law firms and consultancy firms in order to be sure that they like if shit goes wrong, they can say, but BCG said it's a good investment. So this is a little bit how it works, but yeah, it's much more, of course, professional and systemized compared to that more, let's say, junior German family office. Yeah. What was the crisis along the journey? Oh, there was a lot of crises. At the beginning, as said before, like the first crisis was Corona. Like, I mean, we were starting off, we had basically no real customers, and out of a sudden, nobody, like, you couldn't reach anyone. It was crazy. I mean, nobody could imagine something like that. So because, I mean, the infrastructure we know today that everybody has Microsoft Teams and stuff, it didn't exist. I mean, we were lucky if the German municipalities could actually load our website back in the day. I mean, it's tough and very sad story, but that was the state of German public authorities. And then there was Corona, so we couldn't actually do sales, right? And the most important thing the first year is that you get some customers and some traction in order to show to your customer, to your investors. So that was the first big crisis. Then second crisis was when our first investor turned mad and we couldn't work with him anymore. Then what was else? Well, there was a lot of crises. I mean, also we had something very private, but I can roughly speak about it. There was also a crisis that our CTO, one of our co-founders, left the company overnight, and he was gone, and we didn't know where he is. It was also a tough crisis, so we actually had to hire super expensive freelancers. They costed like 30K per month per person because we had to hack our own system. So there was a lot of stuff going on the way, and you know, the thing is, the older or the larger the company grows, the more employees you have, and if you have like 50 employees, that's 50 people you're paying salaries to, and some of them have family and stuff, and at that point, it's not only your problem anymore, but you got a certain responsibility as well, and this is the point where I got a little bit stressed out. So yeah, there was a lot of crises, but in the end, we could resolve all of them because we were also always sticking together as a team and supporting each other. And I'm very sure if I would have been alone or we would have been two people, probably we wouldn't have made it, because our strength was always like, if, you know, somebody had a bad period due to private reasons or whatever, everybody has that, we're all human beings. The others were catching up for that person. There was never like a finger pointing or he's doing less than I'm doing. It was always like a team effort, and that was for sure the core of our success. Yeah. Questions how we find and approach our customers. Very good question. So at the beginning, we did it very, very basic. So we had working students, and I'm not joking now. We told them, here's Google Maps. We gave everybody a region, and they were researching on Google Maps parking lots, literally, and then building long lists on Excel. And then we called these people up. It sounds weird, but this is really how it was. And I mean, today we have a huge CRM system. It's very structured. You know, we have a sales journey, different stages where all the deals are positioned and the teams are working through. So today we have an SDR team, sales development representatives. They are responsible for making appointments. They are day in and day out calling people. It's, for me, the toughest sales job you can have. But these guys, they love it. They're kind of making a competition out of it, and they're making like 10 appointments per month with new customers. And then we have following on that, we have an account executive team. That's the guys driving around, because we try to go as early as possible. Once we have validated it's a potential customer, we drive there. So these guys are driving, the best ones, 90,000 kilometers a year, and really working their asses off to get these customers on board. So it's very classic, picking up the phone and then going there and then convincing the customer. No. Yep. The mental load? Yeah, it's a tough question. I think as said before, like one of us was leaving the company. Mental load was certainly, or I guess I've never talked with the guy since that. Mental load was certainly a topic there. He couldn't handle the pressure and the stress probably. And also for myself, I mean, I had days in the second year, I must admit, where I didn't make appointments with friends during the weekend anymore because I had the feeling my whole week is already kind of scheduled until late night. So I just felt uncomfortable with having appointments on the weekend. And I'm normally a very sociable guy, and I like meeting my friends. So that was the time where also I was like kind of, you know, alerted and saying, okay, now I need to watch out to balance it. And also here, I think it helps a lot that we were a team of 4 people in the founders team, because we always talked a lot, not just about business, also about private stuff, and we know everything about each other. And if somebody was breaking up with his girlfriend, we were suffering together. And this helped a lot. But in the end, I think this is something you really need to watch out, because everybody has a different kind of capability of handling that stress. And some people maybe need a mentor. I never had a mentor. That would have been a nice thing to have somebody who you can talk with, like, you know, just a random person that is not personally like connected to you, that has gone through this. And yeah, in the end, it's a very individual question, but I think you need to really watch out if there's certain kind of alert signs, like you don't catch a deep breath once a day, or like you don't meet your friends anymore. Your family is saying that they don't hear from you anymore, but before they heard a lot of times from you. So there's like some very basic indicators, and if they are popping up, you need to be very sensitive to that, and then kind of react or like speak with people about it, and then I think it helps. And in the end, I must also say, for me at least, Peter Park was always also kind of an anchor. In a positive sense, because that was my reason to exist, which sounds very weird, but it is partly like that. And every time I'm coming there, I have the feeling of being needed, and that is something very very nice as well, and something that keeps you going. And of course, while keep on going, you need to watch out that you don't go too much and you still get some time off. And for us, we always try to not work on weekends. The first 1-2 years, it didn't work out that well, but like the last 4 years, we are not working a lot the weekends. Maybe 1 or 2 hours, that's it. And otherwise, that's kind of free time, and we try to respect that also like amongst each other. I hope that answers the question at least a bit. Yeah, pleasure. What advice would I give my younger self? Maybe takes some things a bit more relaxed, because I was sometimes very stubborn, and really, I mean, I'm very ambitious, and sometimes that was maybe too much. And people know that, like people in my environment at Peter Park, they know how I am. I think sometimes you need to look at everything with a certain distance that helps to actually process it and handle things in a maybe more reasonable way. But other from that, I mean, I think the most important thing is being curious and trying out stuff, because I mean, you guys are on the age where you don't have a lot to lose. And I just had yesterday an interesting discussion with a guy who is like 36, and he had so many ideas, and he would like to build a company, but then he got a small child. And that's what I said at the beginning, right? It's the leap into uncertainty. So if you guys have the idea of founding a company or just trying the experience, the longer you wait, the harder it gets, because you have more and more responsibility. And if you are like failing to build a company with 27, who cares? And I can tell you, and that was also very nice actually for myself, when I left that company where I was before. I mean, it was a great company, great salary, and I had a super good boss who was my mentor. He took me to all the meetings with, I don't know, management board and whatever. He was cool. And he also told me, you know, Stefan, if it doesn't work out, you just come back, because people like you, they will always get a job again. And that, what I want to say with it, not that I'm such a great person, but that people who actually try to build something, go into the risk, that's mostly the people who will find a job afterwards again. And the people who kind of, you know, stay in this in the safety area, who just act within a much thinner area of kind of freedom and responsibility, they will have harder times to find a job again. And I can tell you, if you will talk with the HR people from big corporates, they love to work with people who have built startups or worked in startups, because these people, they just have seen much more in a shorter time. So maybe one last sentence, I'm always making up the comparison. I think what has been like 30 years ago, the McKinseys and BCGs of this world, that's today the startups. Because there you see a lot of stuff. There's a high pressure working environment, but still also everybody's working with newest technologies, and people get shit done, and they're just not writing emails. They really have to get shit done. And I think that's a capability that is very much needed in the corporate world as well. Yeah.
You're making us aware that you're looking for new employees joining Peter Park. I would be really curious, has like the profiles you're looking for, has this changed? Can you give us some insights to what extent perhaps now you're looking for more specialized roles, or perhaps even more generalists as well, to help you as founders? Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about how your requirements or your preferences with respect to employees have changed over time.
Yep, absolutely. So at the beginning, we were an army of working students. Seriously, so because I mean it was cheap people in the first moment, and also very ambitious people. So we had a lot of positive experience with working students. So if any one of you guys wants to try it out, you can of course reach out to ours. We have like more than 30 open positions, I think. But also like if you just want, get a grasp of what it does feel like to work in a startup, I can make the recommendation: go to early stage startups, because there you like the earlier stage, the more responsibility you will get, and that's cool. So also in our case, coming back to your question, it's super interesting. I mean, the topic of AI has changed a lot, and it's not just a buzzword. It really is like that, because we can do most of junior work with AI today. So if you look, for example, in the tech sector, our CTO, and it sounds bad, but he's not hiring any juniors anymore, and also not any mid-level guys. He's saying that basic stuff is done by Claude AI, and we need just the top-notch coders. So we are right now hiring like super senior guys from BMW, from Facebook and Co, because that's the guys who can actually work 10x the speed than a junior can work, supported by AI. And still this is a problem, because we also need to find a methodology of getting talent up again and educated, right? So it's a huge challenge I think we are facing right now. So yeah, and we are searching in all areas. I mean, we have people in tech, in sales, in strategy, in all the areas that we're working in. We search for people. We then try to really draft a very narrow kind of area of responsibility, where somebody then can also deliver output and learn. So yeah, if you're interested, check it out. But also if you have just any questions, like where you would apply if you would be myself, you can reach out to myself on LinkedIn any time. I'm super happy to guide you through. I know a lot of other startups in Munich, and my intention today is not to hire you guys for Peter Park, but really inspire you to actually make the move to try it out, because for myself, it was the same. I was working for a small startup when I was doing my master thesis. It was called Bragi, still existing. They were doing headphones like the AirPods just before the AirPods actually existed. It was a super cool company. And that was for me the kind of inspiration to actually make the move 1.5 years later, because I thought it was so cool and so inspirational. I think if I wouldn't have seen, or if I wouldn't have had that experience within Bragi, I wouldn't have gone that step, because for me it would have been so far away, and probably the risk gap would have been too big to kind of jump over it. So yeah, my warm recommendation is try it out at least, and then you will figure if it's your thing, because for most people it sounds at the beginning maybe less tempting than going for a big corporate, because it's more risky. And don't let yourself drive by the opinion of others. Also, my parents called me a crazy guy when I canceled my job and I went for Peter Park, and they did that for 2 years, because for 2 years it looked like a bad decision. But Yeah, make up your mind yourself, try it out, work for 6 months in a startup, or just do a job there for 2 months, a small gig. It's worth it, and then you can find out if it's your thing, or if you maybe elsewhere better positioned. One more question. The name? Yeah, that's also a funny story. We were working with some friends who just founded a small marketing agency in Düsseldorf back in the days. And yeah, we needed a name for our product, right? So we were doing kind of a design thinking process, classic by the books, and there came out a lot of names. We knew we didn't want to have, the next, I don't know, Parken24 or Park Technology, everything in parking blue, like all the competitors were named. So they came up amongst some other names with Peter Park. And we then did user testing. And Peter Park was never the name that people liked most. But if you asked these people 1 week later which name they could still remember, it was always Peter Park. So it got stuck, and it's kind of something personalized, like Peter Parker, Spider-Man, like, personal figures, or Peter Pan, kind of the idea of flying and something personal, not something technological, but really something that you can kind of engage with. And that's why we went with that brand, and it worked out quite well so far.
Say that for working in startups in general, and also for what you're searching, it's better to be a generalist or not specialist?
I think it depends a lot on the role. So if we look into Peter Park, there's, for example, super focused guys in data science. I mean, one of them was working as a particle physicist in CERN, and he's really like he's a nerd, crazy, super smart guy. But like if you look with him on sales numbers, he's bored, right? Because it's just some basic Excel. So he's a super specialized guy. And then there's other guys. I mean, our sales guys are super generalist guys. It's actually more about the personality and about the ability to convince people and generate trust. So those are very generalistic people. Or we are right now hiring a chief of staff, and this person needs to be kind of a leader in every kind of area, because we throw him into projects, and once it's done, we pull him out and we throw him elsewhere. So it depends a lot on the role, and I think whatever you are, you can have a very nice path in a startup. And once you are a generalist and you can become a specialist if you want, or you stick with being a generalist because you just enjoy having a broad set of work, right? Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think what was very good for us that we were very different people. So not just skill set wise, but also from our personality, we are super different, really, all of us. So I think that's important. And then I think it's less risky to not do it with your friends. It can work. I've experienced cases where it didn't work, and it's always hard if you mix work with friends. So I would recommend to not do it with your friends and do it with the people you know, because then you can. So it's like kind of a formula, right? The friends, it's a lowest risk because you know them, but it's the highest risk of destroying the friendship. With people you don't know at all, it's risky because you don't know them. So I would go for kind of the good middle layer, and then you should absolutely go for people who do it not just for the goal of the fame or the money, because these people will most probably lose motivation on the way. You really need to find driven people who do it because they want to build something, or they have this mission of, I don't know, like solving a problem, or it shouldn't be just the fancy part about it. It should be really mission driven people, and I think this is key because it's going to be a long journey with quite some crises, and if you don't have this as a prerequisite, most probably they will leave you on the way. Yeah. Good. Any last question?
what you probably have noticed compared to Chilla, who we had here, that of course this is a much later stage. And now I'm already building up some curiosity for tomorrow. We'll actually speak about growth. We'll speak about scaling. Then the following week, we'll have Inga here as a more institutional investor. So these are many perspectives that you've now shared with us that will come back tomorrow and next week. And I think you've really made us hungry for more, right? Hungry for entrepreneurship, hungry for learning about growth and scaling. So thank you so much for being so open, for sharing all those insights. And perhaps like one last huge round of applause for Stefan. Thank you so much. So I'll see you tomorrow on our session on growth.